Let me introduce you to the main characters in this story. I'm Joanna, and I often found myself consumed by my job. My husband's name is Mark. He's a patient and understanding man. Together, we have a lovely daughter named Lily, a curious bundle of joy who is growing up faster than we could keep up with. And then there's Evelyn, Mark's mother. She's been a part of my life since I married her son, but I can't say we were very close. You see, I was always busy with work, trying to make ends meet and provide for my family. That left me with very little time for visits, especially to Mark's childhood home. Evelyn, on the other hand, wasn't much of an outgoing person. She preferred the comfort of her home over going out, and Mark always said it was because she was often ill. One evening, as I was rushing through another hectic day, I had an epiphany. Lily was growing up fast, and I felt she should get to know her grandmother better. It wasn't fair that she hardly knew Evelyn, and I needed to make amends for my long absence. I mentioned my idea to Mark, who smiled warmly and agreed that it was long overdue. "She's your family too, after all," he said, always the voice of reason. So, despite my never-ending to-do list, we decided to pay Evelyn a visit. It had been a while, and I wanted to make up for lost time. As we drove to her house, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nervousness. I had spent so little time with her, and I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. When we arrived at her house, it was clear that it hadn't seen a dust rag in ages. Cobwebs clung to the corners, and a thick layer of dust covered everything. It was a mess, to say the least. Lily, always candid, wrinkled her nose in disgust and asked, "Mommy, why is Grandma's house so dirty?" I exchanged a glance with Mark, who chuckled softly. "Well, we're here to fix that, aren't we?" Lily nodded, and we rolled up our sleeves, grabbed some cleaning supplies, and got to work. We scrubbed and dusted, swept, and mopped, while Evelyn watched with a mix of surprise and gratitude. She hadn't expected us to clean her house, and that made our efforts all the more meaningful. As the sun began to set, we decided to call it a day. We'd done a good job, and I was proud of what we'd achieved. It felt like the right step towards bridging the gap between Evelyn and me. Little did I know that this visit would be the start of something unexpected, something that would change everything for our family. After our first visit to Evelyn's place, things began to change. I could see that Lily and Evelyn were warming up to each other, and that made me happy. It was a small step in the right direction. A few weeks later, I decided to take another day off from work to spend time with my family and help Evelyn around the house. It was a weekend, and I wanted to make our visits a regular thing. So I packed up some cleaning supplies, and Lily and I headed over to Evelyn's place again. This time, as we walked through the front door, I could see the surprise on Evelyn's face. She hadn't expected us to return so soon. "We're here to help, Evelyn," I said with a warm smile. Lily chimed in, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Yeah, Grandma, we're going to make your house all pretty." Evelyn hesitated for a moment before nodding gratefully. "Thank you, both of you. I appreciate it more than you know." We got to work just like last time, dusting, cleaning, and tidying up. As we worked, Evelyn joined in, and we started talking more than we ever had. It felt good to chat and share stories while we worked. Lily, always full of questions, asked Evelyn about her favorite things. "What's your favorite color, Grandma?" she asked with genuine curiosity. Evelyn smiled. "I've always loved the color blue. It reminds me of the sea, and I find it very calming." Lily nodded, taking in this newfound information. "Blue is nice. I like it too." As the hours passed, we tackled one room after another. I could see Evelyn becoming more comfortable around us. She started reminiscing about Mark's childhood, sharing stories that made us laugh. It was like discovering a whole new side of her. By the time we finished, the house looked entirely different. It was cleaner and brighter, and Evelyn looked at it with a mixture of surprise and gratitude. She said, "I can't remember the last time my house looked this good. Thank you, Joanna, and thank you, Lily." Lily beamed, and I felt a warmth in my heart. Our efforts were paying off, and it seemed like Evelyn was genuinely enjoying our company. I knew we were on the right path, slowly but surely building a stronger bond between us. Little did I know that this simple act of helping out would lead to a series of events that would shake our family to its core. A few more weeks went by, and our visits to Evelyn's house became a regular thing. It was nice seeing her more often, and Lily seemed to adore her grandmother more with each visit. We'd spend our weekends cleaning, chatting, and sometimes even cooking together. One evening, after a particularly productive day of cleaning, we decided to head home as the sun dipped below the horizon. Lily and I climbed into the car, and I started the engine. I felt a sense of contentment, knowing that our family was slowly coming closer together. As we drove down the quiet, winding road, I couldn't help but think about how our relationship with Evelyn was improving. It was then that something unexpected happened. The car started to act strangely, swerving and jerking. Panic welled up inside me as I struggled to regain control. Lily cried out from the back seat, her tiny voice trembling, "Mommy, what's happening?" I gripped the steering wheel, my heart pounding in my chest. "Hold on, Lily," I said, my voice shaky but determined. I fought to keep the car on the road as it veered dangerously close to a tree. It felt like a lifetime in those few moments. Miraculously, we managed to avoid the tree and come to a stop by the side of the road. My hands were trembling as I turned off the engine and took a deep breath. Lily and I were both shaken, but we were unharmed. I hugged her tightly, thankful that we had escaped without a scratch. After ensuring Lily was okay, I got out of the car to inspect the damage. It didn't take long to see what had gone wrong. All 4 of our tires had been slashed. My heart sank as I realized that someone had deliberately done this to us. Lily asked with a quiver in her voice, "Mommy, what happened to the car?" I crouched down to her level, trying to put on a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, sweetie. It looks like someone did something to our tires, but we're safe." I knew I needed to call for help, but I was also beginning to feel a creeping sense of unease. Who would do such a thing? Why would someone want to hurt us? As I reached for my phone to dial for assistance, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a random act of vandalism. It felt personal, and I couldn't help but wonder if our newfound connection with Evelyn had something to do with it. As I stood by the side of the road, staring at our slashed tires, a growing unease settled in my stomach. It just didn't make sense. Who would want to harm us, especially when we were on our way back from helping Evelyn? The thought of someone targeting my daughter and me was chilling. Lily, sensing my distress, asked, "Mommy, why would someone do this to our car?" I crouched down again, trying to find the right words. "I don't know, sweetheart. It's a mean thing for someone to do, but don't worry, we'll get through this." I dialed the roadside assistance number, and they promised to send help soon. While waiting, I examined the tires more closely. It was evident that they had been deliberately slashed with a sharp object. This wasn't just a random act of mischief. Someone had meant to hurt us. The minutes ticked by slowly, and my thoughts kept circling back to the same question. Who could be behind this? I couldn't come up with a plausible answer. Evelyn had been kind during our recent visits, and there was no reason for her to want to harm us. When the tow truck finally arrived, the driver assessed the damage and confirmed that the tires had been intentionally slashed. He changed them for us, and as we continued our journey home, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Once we arrived home, I decided to take a closer look at the surveillance cameras that were installed around Evelyn's house. Maybe they had captured something that could provide a clue. Lily watched curiously as I reviewed the footage on my laptop. As we scrolled through the recordings, my heart skipped a beat. There it was. The shocking moment when someone had approached our car and slashed the tires. My hands trembled as I replayed the video, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Lily pointed at the screen, her voice trembling. "Mommy, who's that?" I swallowed hard as I recognized the figure in the video. It was Evelyn. She had slashed our tires while we were inside her house. My mind reeled in disbelief. Why would she do such a thing? I closed the laptop, my thoughts in turmoil. I needed answers, and I needed them fast. Lily looked up at me, her innocent eyes filled with confusion and fear. I knew I had to confront Evelyn about what we had discovered, but I couldn't predict what would happen next. The revelation from the surveillance footage had left me in a state of shock. Why would Evelyn, Mark's own mother, slash our car tires? I needed answers, and I needed them fast. I decided to wait until Mark got home to discuss this with him. As I nervously paced the living room, Lily played with her toys, unaware of the turmoil in her mother's mind. When Mark finally arrived, I wasted no time in telling him everything I had discovered. "Mark," I began, my voice trembling, "you won't believe what I found on the surveillance footage. It was your mother who slashed our car tires when we were at her house." Mark's eyes widened in disbelief. "What? That can't be right. My mother wouldn't do something like that." I handed him my laptop and played the footage. As he watched the video, his face grew paler, and he seemed torn between denial and acceptance. Lily tugged at her father's sleeve, her voice filled with worry. "Daddy, why did Grandma do that?" Mark struggled to find the right words as he looked down at our daughter. I don't know, Lily. We need to talk to Grandma and find out." As the reality of the situation sank in, I felt a surge of anger and fear. I needed to know the truth and protect my family. "We can't just ignore this, Mark. Someone wanted to hurt us. We have to go to the police." But Mark hesitated, his voice filled with uncertainty. "I think we should talk to Mom first. Try to understand why she did this." I was torn between wanting answers and fearing the consequences of involving the police. "All right," I conceded reluctantly, "but we need to do it soon." That night, Mark and I lay in bed, unable to sleep. The knowledge of Evelyn's actions weighed heavily on both of us. I wondered if there was something more to this than met the eye. Mark's silence spoke volumes, and I couldn't help but feel that he was keeping something from me. Finally, he confessed, "Joanna, there's something you need to know. My mother, she's been struggling with a mental illness, schizophrenia." I gasped, my heart sinking. "Schizophrenia? Why didn't you tell me before?" Mark's eyes filled with regret. "I didn't think it would ever become a problem like this. She's usually stable, but sometimes she has episodes." I couldn't wrap my head around it. My mother-in-law, schizophrenic? It explained her erratic behavior, but it also left me wondering about the extent of her condition and whether it posed a danger to us. As we lay there in the dark, I couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. The web of secrets and uncertainty surrounding our family was getting more tangled by the minute. Mark's revelation about his mother's schizophrenia had left me with a whirlwind of emotions. It explained the inexplicable slashing of our car tires, but it also opened a Pandora's box of questions. I knew we needed answers, and we needed them urgently. The next day, after dropping Lily off at school, Mark and I decided to confront Evelyn. We needed to understand the full extent of her condition and her motives behind the act that had endangered our lives. We arrived at Evelyn's house, and Mark knocked on the door. She answered, and her face brightened when she saw us. "Mark, Joanna, what brings you here today?" she asked warmly. Mark took a deep breath, his voice hesitant. "Mom, we need to talk. It's important." Evelyn's smile faded as she sensed the gravity of the situation. We sat down in the living room, and Mark began, "Mom, Joanna found out about the car tires. She saw it on the surveillance cameras." Evelyn's face grew tense, and she avoided eye contact. I don't know what you're talking about." I couldn't contain my frustration anymore. "Evelyn, we have the footage. It was you who did it. Why would you do that?" Tears welled up in her eyes, and her voice trembled. "I didn't want you to leave. I missed you both so much, and I thought if I did something to your car, you would have to stay a little longer." I felt a mix of sympathy and exasperation. It was clear that her actions were driven by her illness, but it didn't make them any less frightening. Mark put his arm around her, trying to comfort her as he said, "Mom, we understand that you missed us, but this wasn't the way to handle it." Evelyn nodded, her shoulders slumped in defeat. I know. I just didn't want to be alone." Mark and I exchanged worried glances. We knew Evelyn needed help beyond what we could provide. Mark gently asked, "Mom, have you been taking your medication regularly?" Evelyn hesitated, her gaze dropping to the floor. "Not as often as I should." Mark sighed, his concern deepening. "We're going to get you the help you need, Mom. We'll take you to see a doctor and get your medication sorted out." Evelyn nodded, tears still in her eyes. "Thank you, both of you. I'm so sorry for what I've done." As we left Evelyn's house that day, I couldn't help but feel a sense of relief that we were finally on the path to getting her the help she needed. But the journey was far from over. Our family had faced some dark and unexpected twists, and we were determined to support Evelyn as she battled her illness. Our family's journey took an unexpected turn with Mark's revelation about his mother's schizophrenia. It left me with a whirlwind of emotions, understanding, compassion, and a sense of responsibility. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, Mark and I decided it was time to have a crucial conversation with Evelyn. We needed to discuss her treatment plan and address the incident with the slashed car tires. The atmosphere was tense as we sat down in her living room. Mark began carefully. "Mom, we've been discussing your treatment with a psychiatrist, and we're committed to helping you get better. But there's something else we need to talk about." Evelyn, her expression a mix of curiosity and apprehension, nodded and said, "I'm listening." I took a deep breath and said, "Evelyn, we reviewed the surveillance footage from the day our car tires were slashed. It showed that it was you who did it." Evelyn's face paled, and she looked down, unable to meet our eyes. After a moment of silence, she admitted, "Yes, it was me." My heart sank at her confession, and I couldn't help but ask, "But why, Evelyn? We thought you missed us?" Evelyn hesitated, tears welling up in her eyes. "I did miss you both terribly, but there's something I need to confess." Mark and I exchanged concerned glances. We had no idea what else might be lurking beneath the surface of this already complex situation. Evelyn took a deep breath, her voice shaking. "I didn't just slash the tires to make you stay longer. I did it because I was terrified of what I might do." Confusion and worry washed over me, and I asked, "Terrified of what, Evelyn?" Evelyn's voice quivered as she revealed, "There are times when my illness takes over. I hear voices, see things that aren't there. I was afraid that if you left, I might lose control and harm someone, maybe even you or Lily." My heart ached for Evelyn. She had been silently battling these inner demons, struggling with a reality that was beyond our understanding. Mark reached out, taking her hand gently, and said, "Mom, we had no idea. We're here for you, and we'll support you through this. We'll make sure you get the help you need." Evelyn nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you, both of you. I'm so sorry for everything." As we sat there, I realized the depth of the pain and fear Evelyn had been living with. It was a shocking revelation that explained so much, and it made me even more determined to help her on her journey to recovery. Our family had faced adversity, but we were stronger together and ready to face whatever lay ahead. Our family's journey had taken unexpected turns, and the revelation about Evelyn's schizophrenia had opened doors to a deeper understanding of her struggles. Our commitment to her well-being became our top priority. As weeks turned into months, our visits to Evelyn's house became more frequent. We ensured she took her medication, attended therapy sessions, and provided emotional support. Our family dynamic had transformed, and Evelyn was no longer just my mother-in-law. She was family, and her battle was our battle. One evening, as we gathered in her living room, reminiscing and sipping tea, my eyes fell upon an old, weathered box tucked away on a bookshelf. It was filled with faded photographs, letters, and postcards from Mark's younger days. Lily, always curious, joined me in exploring this treasure trove of memories. "Mommy, who are these people?" Lily asked, pointing at the photographs. I smiled. "These are your daddy's family, sweetie. These photos are from a long time ago." Evelyn watched us with a hint of nostalgia in her eyes. It was evident that this box held a significant place in her heart. As we continued to sift through the box, I discovered an old diary that belonged to Evelyn. It was worn and filled with handwritten pages. I opened it, and as I began to read, I realized that it held the key to a long-buried family secret. Evelyn noticed my expression and gently said, "Joanna, that diary holds the story of our family, a story that I've kept hidden for years." I looked at her, my curiosity piqued. "What kind of story, Evelyn?" She took a deep breath and began to recount the tale from her diary. It was a story of pain, loss, and a family torn apart by a dark secret. A secret that had haunted her for years. A secret that explained why she had been so determined to keep us close. As Evelyn spoke, her voice trembling with emotion, Mark and I listened intently, our hearts heavy with the weight of the revelation. The family secret unveiled before us was a reminder that our pasts are often more complicated than we can imagine, and that understanding and compassion were essential as we moved forward together. In that moment, as we confronted the truths of our family's history, I knew that our bonds had grown stronger. We were prepared to face the future as a united family, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Our journey had been filled with surprises and revelations, but it had ultimately led us to a deeper connection and a newfound appreciation for the strength of family ties.